The first Conjuring movie arguably reshaped modern American horror, as it not only sparked a franchise continuing 12 years later with its latest installments, but also proved to studios that high production value horror had the potential to be very successful at the box office. The early 2000s had seen the genre lean into torture porn and found footage. Made with low budgets, these relied on shock value or constructed authenticity to thrill audiences, straying away from the more polished style of horror classics like The Exorcist, but The Conjuring was an explicit return to form, taking direct inspiration from the 60s, with films like The Haunting, all the way to the early 80s, with The Changeling. This formal shift made sense given that the story was set in 1971, based on the case files of the Warrens, American paranormal investigators who also popularized the Amityville case. The Conjuring intertwines scary sequences with family drama, without aiming at deeper commentary other than the literal fight of love against evil. It is essentially a thrilling ride, akin to a haunted house tour. This is why it is a good case study to analyze how film grammar can be used to frighten modern audiences, which is the single intent of the sequence we'll be examining. On the page, this sequence is very simple. A mother is led on by a ghostly entity, but through the use of immersion and precise pacing, director James Wan takes us on a scary ride without resorting to shock value. For context, the daughters of the Perron family love playing the hide-and-clap game, which consists of someone being blindfolded and tasked with finding others through the sound of their claps. In this sequence, the father is away for work, so the mother watches over her daughters on her own. Before looking at this establishing shot, listen to the directionality of sound. This may only work if you're wearing headphones, have a stereo or surround sound system as intended. Ideally, you should be able to hear the radio music coming from your right side, then the child laugh coming from your left side. In the late 1970s, Dolby Stereo replaced mono tracks as the industry standards for theater sound mixes, which allowed for greater immersion into the soundscape of a film, as audio could come from speakers all around the audience. Here, it's used to great effect to place us inside the scene, as if we were standing next to the protagonists. This wide shot composition includes a door opening into the darkness on the left side, while the bedroom is illuminated by warm practical lamps. Combined with the relaxing radio music, audiences instinctively understand that this is a safe space, while outside lies danger. At the same time, James Wan uses a small mirror reflection to intrigue viewers. In this genre, mirrors are windows into the paranormal, so for a brief instant, we wonder if that really is her. This is not only a subtle strategy to introduce Mise, but also a foreshadowing of the narrative, as she will fight an entity trying to take possession of her body. This sequence is a single take, divided into 3 different compositions as the camera pans back and forth. A long take grounds the audience in the world, letting the scene unfold in real time, as if we were really there. The camera pans to compensate for the lack of editing, instead of cutting to a reaction shot of the mother after hearing the laugh. The actress moves into a medium close-up.
Girls, it's way past your bedtime.
Then we follow her into the final composition, which slightly differs from the first one as the door is no longer just there on the side, it's become the character's focus. The practical lamps are out of frame, and the mother is getting away from us, becoming smaller and thus more vulnerable. She has left the safe space. Similar to a theme park haunted house ride, the camera follows the protagonist around the house in a single long take. It seems to have its own agency. Although its movements are largely motivated by the action on screen, it is handheld and remains independent from the protagonists, embracing the point of view of an unknown observer. We observe her from outside in this frame-within-a-frame composition. It makes her vulnerable, as viewers don't have a clear view of the room behind these walls. If something emerges behind her, they can't watch her back. This sidelight, plunging half of her face into shadows, shows her gradual descent into the unknown as she is leaving the safe space of her bedroom. The further she ventures, the darker it gets. The light is switched on suddenly, which we couldn't anticipate since it was so dark. It's not enough to startle audiences, but nevertheless a subtle device to foster unease. Lights can be used for reveals, but here James Wan builds up anticipation by withholding any scare. Notice the color temperature of these lights. By contrast with the earlier practicals, they are neutral white. The lack of warm or cold tones gives the house a clinical look, along with the muted color palette of the set design, and makes the image look black and white. As a result, despite turning the light on, we don't feel reassured. Here, instead of cutting to the character's point of view shot, the camera looks down by itself, reminding viewers of their role as an independent observer. James Wan challenges point of view conventions by detaching the protagonist from it, and having her appear on the other side of the frame. This does not startle the audience, but disorients them and thus contributes to the growing sense of unease. He then escalates the tension by cutting to a different angle. Instead of repeating the camera placement of the two previous bedrooms, this switch signals to viewers that something more important is about to happen. This back and forth span is a common technique to build up suspense. Instead of cutting back and forth to reaction shot and point of view shot, it painfully drags out a reveal, making the audience anticipate. In addition, it can subvert their expectation through a delayed scare. Just when they feel relieved nothing was uncovered, they are surprised with a reveal when the camera pans back to the reaction shot. But knowing that experienced viewers can anticipate this technique, James Wan chooses to withhold the scare on the second beat. Barely a second after viewers let their guards down, he surprises them, not with a shocking image, but an unusually loud sound. This sound is diegetic, meaning it happens within the world of the film, so it doesn't come across as a cheap jump scare. The camera glides along with the character, and the quick tilt down reinforces the violence of the pictures falling. This is a practical effect, which grounds the paranormal in the real world. As opposed to lighter genres like comedy, fantasy, or even action, the horror genre is unforgiving when it comes to special effects. If the audience suspects it is fake, the credibility and thus the tension fall apart. For this film, James Wan rightfully insisted that the more practical, the better. This extreme low angle suggests the situation has escalated into the uncanny. We were always at the character's eye level beforehand, but now we are on the other side, as if we were embracing the ghost point of view. This escalation is further emphasized by the ominous score. This color-muted set design, coupled with this camera angle, gives an eerie graphic quality to the shots. As we track the character, we inevitably end up in a Dutch angle, with slanted lines, which is reminiscent of early black and white German expressionist films, landmarks of the horror genre. We explore the house through a long take once again. Cinematographer John R. Leonetti's choice of shooting with wide lenses on a 2:39 aspect ratio contributes to the tension by immersing viewers in the world. The lens almost always captures several dark spots or door frames to the left and right of the frame, pushing viewers to constantly scan the environment for incoming threats. The character turns on lights as viewers brace for potential reveals. The long take stretches the tension as the action unfolds in real time. James Wan uses sound directionality again to lead viewers along with the protagonists. The director invites us to participate in this game of hide and seek, which keeps us at the edge of our seats as we now have stakes in the outcome. The handheld camera, the insistence on practical lights, make the scene feel less cinematic and more real. Once again, instead of cutting directly to a point of view shot after hearing the door open behind us, the camera mimics the character's movements, slowly turning back, as if it were dreading what it was about to see. This builds up anticipation by delaying the reveal as much as possible. We cut to this frame within a frame, implying the mother is being watched by an entity hidden in the dark. There are 4 cuts in total, just for the action of her getting to this basement. This contrasts with the previous long take. This increased editing pace fosters a sense of urgency and incoming danger. We escalate into her actual point of view, and the frame is filled with darkness. We are now transitioning into a new space, one of ultimate danger. The ominous score creeps in. It's barely noticeable, but still shapes the audience's experience. We are meant to feel uncomfortable in this basement. The score is an effective tool to make us feel the presence of an unknown entity without revealing it visually. This shot is the most expressive, least grounded of the sequence so far. The protagonist is literally isolated in the overwhelming darkness. Back shots show the subject's vulnerable side, making them seem exposed to potential threats coming from behind. It also prevents us from seeing the exits behind her. This angle is more claustrophobic. This point of view shot effectively conveys a sense of confinement as well, with the upper part of the frame blocked by the ceiling. With the previous build-up of claustrophobic compositions, our worst fears come into effect when she actually gets locked in.
Who's ever down there? I'm gonna lock you in now!
The score fades into silence right before the door slams in order to accentuate its loudness. The violence of the fall is translated by a sudden increase in the editing pace, with 6 cuts and 5 different angles in approximately 6 seconds. This disorients viewers, aligning them with the protagonist's experience. In addition to the narrative intent, this stylistic approach is also practical, as it allows James Wan to stitch together the shots of the stunt double with the actress. This shot visually exemplifies the character's entrapment. The wide-angle lens makes it seem like she's very far away. Within a very small frame, there is no way she can get out. The sound of impact on the piano carries into a non-diegetic, ominous score. The composer, Joseph Bishara, went the avant-garde route rather than traditional Hollywood orchestration, using clusters of atonal sounds such as scraping strings, metallic shrieks, and sub-bass rumbles. As a result, the score seems to be part of the world. Instead of the filmmaker telling us how to feel, it just sounds like it's coming from the entities moving around in the house. The score then fades to silence, prompting viewers to heighten their alertness. The wide-angle lens also keeps them alert as they have to scan the environment surrounding the protagonist for potential threats. Notice this subtle rack focus as she starts looking around. James Wan plays with depth to create anticipation. We can only distinguish the overall shapes of these objects in the background. As they come into detail, we feel overwhelmed by the new information, scanning everything to make sure nothing is out of the ordinary. The low-key lighting, motivated by this light bulb, creates harsh shadows everywhere in the frame. We thus feel surrounded by so many angles of attack. A cut-in to a close-up of the protagonist reveals her anguish, grounding the scene emotionally. Sometimes, all you need to make a scene feel scary is a performer convincingly expressing fear. The ball is a popular prop in horror. This insert is used as an exclamation point to highlight the action with the burst of music. The character's movement motivates the pen, moving from a wide shot to an insert. On paper, a single light bulb exploding doesn't sound very dramatic, but here its size in the frame is so important that it feels like a bomb, emphasizing the impact on our protagonist's situation. Sound's directionality is used again to make viewers feel surrounded by the children's laughs, putting us in the protagonist's shoes. The single matchlight shows how lighting can be used as a narrative tool to indicate the climax of the sequence. As she ventured out of her safe space into increasingly dangerous territory, light acted as her only weapon against the unknown. As the light sources became smaller, creating harsher shadows, viewers felt more tense. Now, darkness surrounds her, and the light barely holds for a few seconds. Viewers feel at their most vulnerable, unable to foresee any threat. Mimicking the minimalist lighting, James Wan avoids virtuoso camera movements. In fact, he sticks to restrained shot reverse shots. The audience barely notices the subtle dolly in, which subconsciously increases the sense of entrapment, as if the entity were closing in on her.
Hey, wanna play hide and clap?
This jump scare works because viewers' expectations were effectively subverted. The child's voice is heard in this shot, which suggests that the voice is coming from downstairs, so viewers lower their guard, thinking the danger won't come from that direction. In addition, this over-the-shoulder perspective makes it seem like we are sharing the protagonist's point of view, so we feel chills down our spine when we realize this was the ghost's perspective all along. This final dolly out with the floating camera at an unnatural angle suggests we are sharing the ghost's perspective, leaving its prey after putting it in a cage. This sequence from The Conjuring exemplifies the return to classic 70s style horror in contemporary cinema, borrowing conventional stylistic devices to craft a descent into darkness that effectively scares audiences without using any graphically shocking imagery. Instead, James Wan relies on anticipatory dread, believing that the build-up is the main source of the scare instead of the reveal. There are so many works I'd like to explore with you, so if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe. See you in the next one.